All right, I'm super excited to have Lostboycrow Chris with me on the podcast. Chris, welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing splendid. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on.
Splendid. I haven't heard that word in a long time. I think we need to bring it back.
I I agree. It's like, it's pleasant, it's upbeat, it's optimistic. The sun is shining here in LA. It feels good.
It's very reflective of kind of where you're going musically, I feel. Like you've dropped
Mhm.
a couple singles this year, Discount Dreamer and Summer Boy. So I feel like we're in that Summer Boy splendid era, if you would agree with that.
I'll cheers to that. Definitely. It's summer boy season for sure.
Is
It's
it some
official.
is it something that you're kind of ushering in a new era? Like where, Summer Boy is very I think I want to start off actually by saying you've been doing kind of like this indie realm for a while. Like your last couple projects were very much in that indie rock like realm and indie pop realm. Like, is this something we're gonna keep seeing from you with Summer Boy and Discount Dreamer now being out?
That's a great question. Yes. Short answer, a little of column A, little of column B. I think these last singles have kind of been expanding a little bit on the indie pop. Like obviously the last album I did with indie pop, and kind of my answer to like enjoying those elements and enjoying the four-piece band feel, but kind of expanding on that a little bit. So I think you'll see some more experimenting for sure, but the elements will still be there, definitely.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. Because as I mentioned before we hopped on this call, like I've been a fan. I followed you since the beginning, like 2016, the Powers era. Like you kind of have had an interesting
Mhm.
trajectory, I feel, where you started off with this kind of alternative R&B, like pop sound, and now you've expanded into the indie. Like, was indie something that you always saw yourself doing, or did it kind of just happen naturally?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and you are spot on. It's ebbed and flowed and taken many twists and turns sonically over the years. And I think that I mean, I started playing guitar, I think when I was like 18, 19, and it kind of became the instrument that I really felt like I learned my voice on and really learned how to write on a certain way. And when I first moved to LA, I I had been kind of in some indie bands in Portland, and it was just kind of time for a change of pace. And what was new at that point was bedroom pop,
Mm,
which was kind of this literal, like, people producing records in their bedrooms,
yep.
with without the full studio treatment, without like the live room for drums, what have you. And so when I first moved to LA, that was kind of the fun thing to explore. Like I had been doing these full band setups and messing with all my guitar pedals and collecting way too many and all that. And so when I got to LA, it was cool to just be able to make a full song literally in someone's bedroom or in someone's living room. And as a result, it kind of became more beat driven. It was more of the production. The production was as much a part of the songwriting as anything.
Mm,
um, and I think just slowly over the years, realizing that I was writing a different way, I was singing a different way when I would make songs, um, in that fashion, instead of which would kind of be my roots, which was writing on the acoustic guitar, usually writing on the acoustic guitar. And so over the years, I've kind of gotten back to that voice of like starting the song on the guitar, and I think it's just my kind of natural state.
mm.
And that's kind of, I think that's why, that's the main reason for the sound kind of evolving or circling back in that way, was just the process
Mm.
became different. Yeah.
It's reminiscent of something I've noticed a lot in your music is this journey of self-discovery and like traveling. And I mean, like you literally have like the Traveler EP like series. And I mean, so many of your songs too kind of have this theme of moving or going somewhere. Like some of the songs too, like that you've put out, or even like Discount Dreamer kind of talked about it a little bit, or like Summer Boy kind of talked about just like exploring things like whether it's like love or crush or things like that. Would you agree like that your personal life, like with all these moves, like, because I think you grew up in Santa Fe, is that correct?
No, actually, I grew up in Oregon,
Oh,
just outside
okay.
of Portland, and then Santa. Yeah, I mean that's fair. People do think that. I think just because of the album and how often I talk about it, and I do feel really connected to New Mexico. But yeah, not to side quest. Albuquerque was one of the first places that I felt like I could go to and play at a cafe or whatever, and people would show up for me. And so it just had a special place in my heart. And when it came time to make my first real album, I wanted to do it in New Mexico, and I wanted to explore Santa Fe, which was somewhere I'd never been. And so I just felt really drawn to that place,
Mhm.
and I felt really connected. And obviously, I think Santa Fe is maybe more so than any project I've done, just an album that like really knows itself. And so I hope, I'm glad it comes across that way, that like, it was such a home and a special place for me, for sure.
Yeah, like you
But
said,
yeah.
that was your first, yeah, that was like your first full length album. And you've done
Mhm.
Valley Heart and you've done Indie Rock, I think was the last one you put out. And then you've
Yep.
done a couple I guess like collaboration projects with like 1990 Nowhere and Asking for a
Yeah,
Friend. Like what was that like process like? Like are you someone I assume that likes to work with other artists on fun projects like that?
definitely. I mean, I think you find in general, like I love meeting new people as well. And when you first kind of get going and move to a new city, you want to do a bunch of sessions or do a bunch of writing and kind of see who the people are that you really enjoy working with. And then once you find those people, I mean, I just can't help myself. I like to write with them, and usually the songs end up being like really personal, and it's not just like, oh yeah, well, this would be great for, let's pitch this to someone else or whatnot. So in terms of like 1990 Nowhere, that was birthed out of just friends meeting on the internet, getting together, no pretense, no nothing, and four songwriters in a room not being able to help themselves, writing a song, and then hey, we should hang out again, writing another song.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we should hang out again, writing another song, and before you know it, you've got an EP. And um, that was, we didn't set out to make a band. We were just enjoyed hanging out, and like I said, we couldn't help ourselves. And the music felt really unique to us. It didn't seem like something that would just maybe live somewhere else or be for someone else. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it was like, well, I don't think we have a choice. I think we have to put it out and make it a project. So that was birthed out of a new friendship,
Mm-hmm.
asking for a friend, similar. That's with my buddy Dyson. He and I had toured together, I think in 2017, and it went really well. We went with our buddies in this band Prelo, and it went so well that we decided to do it again. So we did these two tours, kind of different markets, a couple months apart. And so doing that, I mean, we just got to know each other really well. And eventually, Dice and I were kind of became like unspoken roommates on the tour. When we would stop at like a city or, stop at a hotel for the night, like he and I would kind of room together. And we quickly realized that we were both obsessed with Alex Turner from
Mm-hmm.
Arctic Monkeys. I know we're not unique in that, but we are unique in how obsessed we are with them. I think
Mm.
that's the thing. We were very kindred spirits, and we loved old music. We loved Debbie Reynolds and Connie Francis and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff, and it was just the same thing. We were like, well, why? I think we were snowed in Omaha one night and kind of just had no choice but to write a song. And we liked it too much to not do anything with it. So we got back to LA and kept writing and kept putting stuff out. And yeah, and we're still putting stuff out with both those projects. So
Mm-hmm.
they're definitely near and dear to my heart, and they really occupy a specific space for me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and
How
especially just while I think I was in the process of releasing Valley Heart, and I'd already written indie pop.
Hmm.
Everything was done. And so, you're releasing an album, you already have the next one written, and you still want to write songs, and you kind of needed an outlet for that. And those
Mm.
projects were the perfect outlet for me at the time, and continue to be. But
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a really good point. Like you said, if you have this music kind of sitting around and you want to put it out, might as well find a means to do it. And I mean, both of those collabs are such an awesome way for you to do that. And I want to bring up too, like kind of on that similar vein of other projects, like you just did, I think, your first ever musical. Is that right?
yes, yes, that is correct. Pretty much. I mean, it's been a dream for a long time. For probably about 15, 16 years, and I've just always loved musicals. It's kind of what got me into singing. I had a
Mm.
vocal coach in high school have me sing songs from musicals at like our concerts, like as like a solo. But our school didn't have a drama department, so it never occurred to me to be in a musical. There was never like that opportunity. Um, and it was just one of those things. It was really easy to say like, "Oh, that'd be fun to do someday. That'd be fun to do someday." And kind of just decided to go on casting websites this last year and see what I found, and they they liked me, I guess, So it was it was a ton of fun. It was the most grueling and fun process ever. I have so much
Hmm.
respect for not just musicals, but live theater is truly a miraculous thing that people pull off.
Mm, yeah. I mean, I was reading about it. It was Cannibal the musical. And I mean, like the story is
Mhm.
kind of wild. And I think I saw a video on your Twitter or on your Insta actually of you like, all bloody and like eating something to make it look gory because this guy was literally a cannibal in like the 1800s or whatever. Like, how do you even
Yeah.
get into that mindset? Like you said, being in a play is a completely different beast. How does like Lost Boy Crow, aka Chris, like assume this role of being this cannibal?
Well, so it's interesting. So it's a Trey Parker original. I think it was his first body of work. I think he wrote it when he was in college. So it's got that Trey Parker South Park humor, which was new for me too, because the musicals that I'm used to singing along with are the ones that I really enjoy are usually pretty serious. They're
Mm.
your Phantom of the Operas, the Les Mis, these beautiful songs, and then comes along, Cannibal the musical, which is it's just very ridiculous start to finish. So it was fun for me. I would say more so than stepping into the role of like a cannibal. It was the fun challenge was being in like this ridiculous, silly musical, and being in a comedy. So it was all new territory for me, being in something that was 100% comedic and ridiculous.
Hmm.
Um, Start to finish was a really, really interesting and eye-opening experience and a fun challenge. I think it was great for me to have that under my belt. There's
Hmm.
just so much room for like improvising and
Mm.
playing off of other great actors, and it was really, really a huge time of growth. But yeah, so it was based off of a real life story, a real life cannibal who did eat some folks, but the Trey Parker musical supposes that he is. So this person, Alfred Packer, actually did eat these people, and he got arrested. And he was telling his side of the story was very like naive and like I don't know what happened to these people, and I was just doing this very much that. So Trey
Right.
Parker's musical Cannibal tells it from Alfred Packer's accounts.
Okay.
So it kind of presupposes that he was just this, well-meaning, naive, uh, sweet guy. And so in the musical, I actually got to play someone that was incredibly naive. Again, not to overuse that word, but very, very sweet, very sincere. And so I hope it wasn't too much of a stretch for me to step into those characteristics. But yeah, it was funny like I said, it was an interesting challenge to be in something that
Mm-hmm.
was just purely a comedy,
Mm-hmm.
and um, yeah, to know how to navigate that, how to play off of others, and how to not overdo it. You know,
Mm.
I think that's
Right.
always the temptation with comedy, but yeah.
Yeah. I think the real question is, can we expect like satirical music from Chris in the future? Like, is this gonna be like something that we see at some
I,
point, like
I
writing about naive cannibals? Like,
I hope so. I hope so. I love yeah, I love um making up silly little songs, man. So I hope so.
love
Definitely.
that. Well, I want to get back to talking about the tracks that you've just put out. Like Discount Dreamer, you put out in March, and Summer Boy just came out in May. So we got a couple tracks, new music from you. And I think the first thing I really want to ask is, what is the reason behind Dance Break right now? Is this just like forcing people to get out there and have a good time, a splendid time, kind of saying, as we were earlier?
Yeah, splendid time. Definitely. I think for me, a lot of a lot of these songs, and particular Discount Dreamer, is about just kind of getting over yourself a little bit
Mm. Yeah.
and stepping into your, whether it's for me your sort of theatrical side, or just the parts of you that feel most alive when fill in the blank. So a lot of that song and the verse is kind of the life of an artist, or there's a line in the song that kind of is the theme for me, and it's find your purpose, dust it off.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's kind of about like, yeah, not just like rediscovering or reinventing or pivoting, but really like finding the heart of what made you want to get into art or music in the first place. And so I feel like Dance Break is like, yes, it's a call to dance, but it's more so just this um call to be carefree. Even the way I sang it was like very sort of theatrical. It's like very character
Yeah.
um esque. So yeah, that's kind of the I hope that answers the question.
No, yeah, totally. And I mean, it's that song in particular, Discount Dreamer, I feel like is a little bit slower from what you had in your last project. So it's kind of more to me, like when I
Mm.
listened to it, it was reminiscent of like a stereotypical like romance, slow jam, falling in love type vibe. Like, is that something else you kind of see more coming with your music? Like, are you kind of going in that vein?
Mm. Uh, are you trying to get me to admit there's an album on the way?
I mean, if you
Uh,
want to, you can, but we'll
um,
just we'll talk about this for now if you want.
yeah, no, I'm just giving you a hard time. Yeah, there. I well, I'll say this. As much as I've written on the guitar to start a lot of these last couple albums, and really as I was touring at the time with these four-piece bands, that was kind of like really take into account is like what's going to feel good to play on stage, what's
Mm,
going to feel good, with a crowd. This album was kind of birthed out of me just wishing I was a bass player, secretly deep down, and just getting on the bass and coming up with grooves, um, along with Sam Beresford, who produced it with me. We'd kind of start most of the songs um, on bass and like messing with drum sounds and tempos. And so there is more. Yeah, to your point, there's this the song. Both the songs that are out they're a little more groove centric.
mm,
And so yeah, it is slower, but it's kind of more about the uh, the groove of it, rather than sometimes I feel like writing just on guitar strictly, it can move the song along in a very specific way. And I think
mm.
because bass was so involved early on in these songs, they tend to be a little, again, just groove centric, for lack of a better word.
No, I
Yeah.
think that's perfect because as soon as you said groove, like the music from Summer Boy started playing in my head, and that's exactly how I would describe it. It's something you can kind of, shake your shoulders to, like groove a little bit. Like I have to say, like that's probably one of my favorite songs you've put out, like in recent history. Like not to bash
Oh,
indie
I love
pop,
that.
and I mean Valley Heart, forget it. Valley Heart is arguably my favorite project that you've put out.
Oh,
But
I
Summer
love
Boy
that.
is
I
like
love that.
Summer Boy's so good, dude. Like I just need to know like a little bit more about what that inspiration was for that album. Even like the production is just like that groovy ebbs and flows like we've talked about. It's just so good.
Thank you so much. Well, first of all, I don't want to gloss over that. I love when Valley Heart is. I mean, I love when any album is someone's favorite album of mine, but Valley Heart for me that makes me smile because it really, um, yeah, it's just it scratches a very specific itch for me, and I love when people resonate with it. So thank you. And yeah, now I hope Summer Boy kind of encapsulates a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I said, I think I started the song. I was just hanging out with my buddy Cody, and there was a bass lying around. And I mean, yeah, you don't put me within arm's reach of a bass. I will pick it up and attempt to play it. And so yeah, I just kind of wrote that bass groove, and I really liked it, and we just kind of built off of it, and then brought it to Sam, and we were able to kind of build it out a little bit more. And um, even the guitar too was just something that I thought would be fun to play live. And this was a year and a half ago now, so we ended up on the last tour we did. We did a small headline tour in 2023, and we did play Summer Boy live.
Okay.
So if you came to the indie pop tour, you got a massive sneak peek at at Summer Boy. But yeah, like again, just having fun with the bass. Like those are the songs. So many songs I love just have great bass tone and just a unique bass groove, even if it's nothing complicated in that song. It's just you kind of can't help but move. And I just noticed over the years that so many of the songs that I love just have great bass.
Yeah.
They just have great bass. I don't care if it's, I mean, yeah, Tame Impala has incredible bass lines, but also these incredible bass tones that really just cut through. You can't help but feel them.
Mm-hmm.
Yuck by Charlie XCX, I think, was a big inspiration for me at the time. I was writing Summer Boy. Like, you just can't help yourself. New Choice of On has just like incredible bass lines. It's just,
Mm.
man, it's so simple, but just good bass, man, because it goes a long way. So that was my attempt at that. And it was fun to build around it for sure.
Yeah. No, I love that like array of artists you just mentioned too. Like you kind of mentioned like a little bit of the pop boys and girls and then some indie people like, and from your background, I understand that you were a huge Beatles fan growing up. So I mean,
Hmm.
have all those things like the 60s, I mean, even with the image that you're projecting with Discount Dreamer, like it kind of feels a little bit of like a throwback to like 80s 90s, like you in the crop top, and like the album cover was like very reminiscent of that. Like is that something else you kind of see in your work, like going back to like these other artists that were like decades at this point, like not relevant, I should say, that's a horrible word, but decades ago were like the biggest artists of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think nostalgia is a hell of a drug for all of us. And yeah, I think at least in my music, a lot of it is about just self exploration and growth, and that those are all the things that shaped me, and the music that shaped me. And we're all an amalgam of the things that we grew up listening to, especially in those formative years. I think what we're listening to growing up and into our early teens like really shapes kind of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, loved the Beatles. I know I'm the only one who who grew up listening to the Beatles. Um, but yeah, that was like a first musical experience of listening to my parents, cassettes of the Beatles, and really falling in love with that. I've said this before in interviews too, but the soundtrack for the movie That Thing You Do also played a huge role.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen that movie, but it's Tom Hanks' directorial debut, and it's about this one-hit wonder in the '60s. And the soundtrack was great, the movie's great, and that just really inspired me. even though those are actors and whatnot, they just really like embodied and inspired kind of that life of like wanting to be a performer. Come to realize years later, the Adam Schlesinger, I think, wrote a lot of the music for that, for Fountains of Wayne, which has ended up being a big influence of mine. And then the person who voiced it is Mike Viola, who ended up being a big influence of mine too. So it all kind of
Mm.
comes full circle. And I'm totally got off base of the question now. I'm just rambling, but
No, I think that pretty much answered it. Like, I just love hearing about these influences that you've had, like I said, from modern to like back in the day. Like, it really, like I said, I think it's showing through your sound and this direction you're going in musically. So, I mean, I'm just gonna wrap it here. So I just want to say thank you so much, Chris, for coming on. Like, it's been a pleasure. If you want, why don't you let people know where they can follow you so they can kind of keep up to date on what other projects you have going on?
absolutely. I appreciate that so much. Thank you for listening to the music. Thank you for appreciating it and wanting to have me on. It means a lot. So thank you so much. Again, I'm Lost Boy Crow, and you can find that anywhere. It's just Lost Boy Crow on Instagram, Lost Boy Crow on uh, X, if you will, Lost Boy Crow on TikTok. Although my username on TikTok is Guy Fiero, just because I couldn't stay away from a good pun. Um, and yeah, just working on putting out new music. There will be more of it to come. Make your own assumptions, but yeah, very excited to share more, and there's a lot more to share. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about that.
Of course, big pleasure of mine. And if you haven't listened, Discount Dreamer and Summer Boy are out now. So go stream, give him those likes, give him those follows. Lost Boy Crow, amazing. Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate it.